Somebody sent me this video and said, Papa Gut, this explains why people don't like J.K. Rowling and Hogwarts and blah, 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 and all this other silly stuff. And so before we play Hogwarts Legacy, we're gonna watch this video. Hogwarts, A Legacy of Hate, The Jimquisition by Jim Sterling. Let's get this party started, baby. Ah.
Nah, I don't care. Okay. It's stupid. Harry Potter is stupid, and it's about time someone said it was bad, because nobody in the history of ever has ever suggested that Harry Potter is bad. I'm a trendsetter. Okay. No, but it is stupid, though, right? We're supposed to believe that...
A pink monster. I mean, this person's really matching the aesthetic. I gotta respect that. I also have to turn down my balloon scheme, because I didn't know why it's so loud.
The wizards in the wizarding world is so much superior to the muggles, right? We've got phones. They use owls.
That's true.
Right? If fucking Hagar the Horrible, right, bicycled into my fucking house and went, oh, you're a wizard, Stephanie, I'd probably be excited at first. I'd be all, oh, that's brilliant, Hagar the Horrible. How do we go? Am I going to go in a car? What? No! We don't ride cars in the wizarding world. We fly about on flippity doos.
I don't even know why you really need to fly, because it seems like people could just like teleport wherever they want to go. So I don't really get it. The ruling seems relatively inconsistent, to be honest here. I don't understand it, but you know, that's just me. I'm just.
What's a flippity do? Well, first of all, you gotta get yourself an 8-legged one. We're not gonna get on. Right, I insist on bringing my 3DS. Hagar, have you got?
Plus, Hagar. It was Hagar. I'm now confused. Plus, didn't the car fly? Don't they have a flying car? It just seems like it makes more sense to me.
Wall charges. What's wall charges? Oh dear. Okay then, so what do you do for entertainment? Oh, it's brilliant. We eat sweets that make you do elephant noises. Fucking what? And what is the shit with the all flavour beans? Right? I could, right, get a McDonald's, or I could eat bonbons that taste of literal sick and mucus. And we're supposed to think that this is charming and quaint. Well, it's not.
Well, it actually kind of makes sense, because, like, think about this. How many times can you think of a time that, like, a company did a thing just because they could and it didn't actually have any positive impact? Okay, that's what people do. This is why, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. Okay, just because you can, beat up a cat doesn't mean you should. Okay, but you should, because I hate cats. So that's kind of consistent, I think.
Oh, Hagrid, how do we get to school? Well, first of all, you gotta go to King's Cross Station. Even if you're already in the wizarding world, you gotta get out of it and then run it first into a fucking wall.
True.
This is bollocks.
That makes no sense.
If I were there, I'd sort it all the fuck out, right? I wouldn't bother with the fucking wands they've got. It's green dots, right? Oh, what wand have you got, Stephanie? Is it a dragon heartstring cord? No, it's a gun. And it's only got one spell. Bang! That's your Voldemort problem taken care of. Bang, bang! That's the fucking snake.
That's true. They never really established whether they had spells that could stop guns. One of the things that really bothers me about Hogwarts or about like Harry Potter is I don't understand why some spells have to be casted and then other spells can just be like, you could just shoot magical beams out of your wand. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it, personally. So, okay.
2 for the snack.
It's long, innit?
Did you mean to call Ollivander's green dots?
I don't fucking care.
Fair
I don't care what the one shop is.
About.
Olivia Newton-John's. I don't care that the one shop is Olivia Newton-John's. I don't give a fuck. I don't even want to do this episode. I've known it's coming for a year, but I don't want to have to talk about fucking Hogwarts.
I'm ready
for
it.
I made my peace with
ready.
the Harry Potter series.
I'm ready for it. I still like Harry Potter. We're going to go to Disney. We're going to we're going to Universal to go to Harry Potter World in like November or something. Okay. There's nothing that you could say in this video that would make me care about trans people. I'm just kidding. Hey, you separate the art from the artist. By the way, my character is non-binary in Harry Potter. Unironically, no disrespect. Okay, wrapping it up, dude. All right. I heard that there's a lot of LGBTQ people that worked on Harry Potter. I know a lot of people like it, like LGBTQ people like Harry Potter. There's no joke there. People like it. It's a cool show. I think it's just about weird people who come to be accepted, and I respect it. By the way, Neville should have been the boy who lived. So that's all I'd say.
Because I made my peace a long time ago, but it's inevitable.
I have a wand. Look, I got this at Walmart, but I've never had a wand before. My wife has a collection of wands downstairs, so I got this wand out of a surprise box. You'll never guess whose it is. It is Bingletoads. No. Credence Barebone from the prequel series. Now, if you don't know who Credence is a pedophile who rapes indigenous children. And that's why this wand is so powerful with dark magic, because Ezra Miller played the character. So I got lucky in the wand I got. A lot of dark magic. Okay. There we go. Whoa. A Grubicus. Whoa. It's pretty powerful. Look at this. It's so, there you go. It's the best wand, I guess, ever. Also, apparently, this character is Dumbledore's brother or something. If you didn't know that, spoiler alert. But the prequels, frankly, I thought sucked. I thought the first prequel, The Magical Beast, was really good, and then the the second one was boring. So I never watched the third one. Kind of like Star Wars, the new Star Wars. So there you go. That's my wand, and it sits next to me. I'm gonna buy a new one, I think, when I go to Harry Potter World. So, let's continue with this video.
It's here, and we've got to talk about it. The fucking Wizard game. Warning, of course, for what you're about to see. There's going to be a lot of transphobic rhetoric that I have to show you in order to talk about some of this shit. So, let's talk about J.K. Rowling. Let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and let's talk about how allyship really works.
Okay.
J.K. Rowling is a transphobe. This is a fact. It's a fact I've never seen disputed in good faith, only challenged by...
I need to know more information. I hope that this video just shows us, like, why they're transphobic. Because, like, I wasn't really on the internet to tune in for it. And, like, I'd like to just see more information about it. That's what I'm looking for. You know, I believe you, but I need, like, information myself, and it's hard to find. You know, somebody sent me this, though, so...
by fellow transphobes who have a pre-baked line since these people read from the same script. What did she say exactly that's transphobic? Rowling couches her hatred in plausible deniability, but her daily obsessive takes on us,
and as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without any need for surgery or hormones. Then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. That's a simple truth. I mean, what does that mean? My question is this even true? And what is a gender confirmation certificate? I don't understand what any of this means. I guess that's the problem. Are we actually handing out certificates, or is this a metaphor? Like, it's just a weird thing to say. I don't understand the context of what she's saying this for. Because she might just be an idiot saying this is to be transphobic. Yeah, I don't understand. I'm so confused. Okay, we'll see
constant
more.
Comparisons of trans women to men, her verbatim
Many health professionals are concerned that young people are struggling with mental health are being shunted towards hormones and surgery when this may not be in their best interest.
Is it ozone becoming...
Hey, what's going on, brother? I don't think I've seen you in a while. Thank you so much for the medium god. Yeah, this one I don't understand. Many health professionals are concerned that young people struggling with mental health are being shunted towards hormones and surgery. Who's saying that? Is that a real thing? I mean, like, I think that we should be careful about the proper care, but I mean, that's between a doctor, their parents, and I guess the kid. I hope I never have a trans kid because it's going to be a very difficult decision. I'll love the fuck out of my kid, but how hard is it going to be? Like, that's going to be such a hard thing. I just don't understand it. But I don't think anybody's pushing people towards it. I mean, that's like the conspiracy theory of, like, oh, they were trying to make people trans because it's so expensive healthcare wise. Oh, it's so expensive healthcare wise, guys. But it's like, well, so their argument is that we're trying to make kids trans so that we can profit off them in the healthcare system. And my question is, like, oh, maybe the issue is that our healthcare is too expensive. Like, have you ever think about that? So, you know. But anyway.
Petition of gender-critical talking points makes her feelings clear. She follows, is best friends with, and outright claims to be one of the many prominent TERFs, trans-exclusive radical feminists these days rebranded to gender criticals. Her slide into open fascism as a result has been horrifying. She is a fan of Matt Walsh, a fascist so into
oh yeah, it's hard to not be. It's hard to not be transphobic if you like Matt Walsh. I'm just gonna be real with you, Matt. Listen. I've seen Matt Walsh talk to Joe Rogan, and he gets dunked on so hard. He's homophobic and transphobic, but I mean, the guy's like fucking. It's hard, man. If you like Matt Walsh, you're probably homophobic and transphobic. I could see someone liking Ben Shapiro, and like, even though Ben Shapiro is not gay for me or trans for me, I could see you separating separating those points. But Matt Walsh, yeah, there's nothing going on up there other than, like, hate fucking trans people. So,
fascism that he self-describes as one, and has made a career from accusing LGBTQ plus people of the very pedophilia he himself seems to be a fan of. She's liked tweets from the abjectly abhorrent Libs of TikTok account, a
the pedophile shit.
Notorious right-wing platform that outs queer people and is used to organise attacks against drag shows as well as threats against hospitals. She retweets unscientific drivel by queerphobes like Baroness Nicholson. She stands with Maya Forstater, who, after losing her job at a progressive organisation over demeaning anti-trans comments, has dedicated her life to combating trans rights. She once sent accidental transphobic profanity to a 9-year-old girl after pasting a comment from an anti-trans website.
Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling tweets profane transphobic message to a 9-year-old that she has done previously. What is the tweet?
She was reading and copying at the time. She called criticism of this censorship and authoritarianism, seeming to defend her right to rope kids into her obsession. And she is obsessive. Scroll through her Twitter and you'll find that she thinks about trans people all day, every day. She herself has fought...
Me too, but only when I'm horny.
against Scotland's gender recognition reforms, scaremongering and spreading outright lies about a law that would simply make being trans a tiny bit easier. She still has the nerve to act offended at acting outright.
Multiple women's groups have presented well-sourced evidence that some kind of surgeon's government about the likely negative consequences of this legislation for women and girls, especially the most vulnerable. All have been ignored. The legislation passed, and the consequences ensued that the SNP government can't pretend it wasn't. I'm wondering what the fuck she's
lies about a law that would simply make being trans a tiny bit easier. She still has the nerve to act offended at accusations of phobia while literally campaigning against our basic rights and legal dignity. At first, she tried to keep up the mask of someone who...
That's my thing. Like, if you're going to be, like, transphobic or something, like, at least just be like, yeah, I am. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Instead of just being, no, I don't hate trans people. It's like, it seems like you might a little bit. Just say that you are. I think that's like based. Just be based. Hey, I'm transphobic. Okay, well, at least I know where you're coming from now. I'm just saying.
Supports trans people, but just has concerns and wanted to protect women's spaces. A long-time gender-critical dog whistle. She claimed her liking of transphobic tweets was just her fingers slipping. Honest.
Middle-aged moment for liking tweet calling trans women men in dresses. Oh yeah, that is transphobic.
And now she's an ardent supporter of Helen Joyce.
While we're trying to get through to the decision makers, we have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transitioned. Every one of those people is basically, a huge problem to a sane world. Like, if you've got people, and whether they're transitioned, whether they're happily transitioned, whether they're unhappily transitioned, whether they're detransitioned, if you've got people who've dissociated from their sex in some way, every one of those people is someone who needs special accommodation. Every one of them is a difficulty. They're happily, a huge problem to a sane world.
That's where you lose me. Listen, like, ideally, people should. So the job of a therapist that especially or helps trans people is that here's what you do. This is my understanding of it. I've talked to a trans therapist before, and I hate that I didn't have the conversation to post, but. Is that you talk to somebody and you have them set goals for themselves of how they want to look and express, and then you try to kind of like meet in the middle through like therapy. So as they transition, you try to like reel in their expectations. Sometimes if somebody has gender dysphoria, the proper treatment for them, and it's a case by case basis, could be for them to not transition. Everybody's different. Ideally, you'd be happy in your body and you wouldn't go through hormonal or any changes like that. That's ideal. Right? Just like ideally, I don't piss all over the toilet when I'm half awake at night. But the reality is that this is just not how the world works. Okay? In order for these individuals to be happy, they need to transition to a certain point while also trying to learn to love themselves, and they kind of meet in the middle. It's the same thing that I have with my tiny penis. Okay? So that's why I married a woman with small hands. Okay? So that's kind of like where you need to go. You kind of just have to like meet in that expectation. So I could say like ideally people would try not to transition and they would try to find an alternative that would make them happy. But realistically speaking, if this is the treatment method that medical professionals are telling us is what needs to happen, then who the fuck am I, right? I'm just some fat guy on the internet. So what does it really matter? So saying it's a huge problem to a sane world is kind of just ridiculous. Trans people exist. The pathway for different issues isn't about feeding delusions like some people will say. It has everything to do with making it so that person can function in society to the best of their ability without hurting society. Trans people don't hurt society. Right? A lot of people compare them to pedophiles. Well, what about pedophiles? Let them rape kids? Like, no, that hurts society. Trans people transitioning doesn't hurt society. People talk about things like, oh, well, what about people who are anorexic and they don't want to eat? So we feed into the delusion and not let them eat? No, that'll kill them. But allowing somebody to transition actually increases mental health outcomes. You really have no like logical argument when it comes down to this conversation, because the outcomes of people who are able to transition properly and aren't overdiagnosed, and I'm sure there are some people that are. We should talk about detransitioners in a way that doesn't stoke transphobic fires. You know, I would like to make sure that we don't have people getting misdiagnosed. It'll make me feel more comfortable, especially as we have conversations about kids transitioning. That's scary to me. So if we got to get the mental health, we got to get the, you know, we have to make sure that we're properly diagnosing people. But that's not a transphobic thing to say. That's like logical. Some people would take my argument and use it to be transphobic, though. And that's a problem. Yeah, but saying that it's a problem to a sane world, because you're not insane if you're trans. Just because you have mental health issues doesn't make you insane. You could consider that like a level of ableism. You know, calling somebody insane because they have like a mental health diagnosis. You know, it's like you're not. I just call people insane because they're in the membrane. Okay, so no.
Gubfaz super chatted $2.06. Do you like Weezer Father Gut?
No, I don't. You asked me this before. Thank you, though.
Like if you've got people, that, whether they're transitioned, whether they're happily transitioned, whether they're unhappily transitioned, whether they're detransitioned.
Hey, if you're happily transitioned, you're bad.
If you've got people who've dissociated from their sex in some way, every one of those people is someone who needs special accommodation. Every one of them is a difficulty.
Those things are true. It could be like it's difficult to accommodate people, but that doesn't make it a bad thing, right? Like I had like if you have like ADHD or something, and like you need special accommodations by going into like special education classes, that's a difficulty. Doesn't mean you're bad. It's just a struggle that you're really born with. I imagine like most trans people are born being trans. I'm sure there's social factors, but I imagine that it's a lot more than just social factors. You know, there's hormone washing in the womb and you know, all this other silly goosery and like gene, you know, the hereditary impacts. It's a very nuanced thing. What's my L take? Oh, that I don't like Weezer. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Okay, sorry.
Oh dear.
That's someone J.K. Rowling agrees with, platforms, is a friend of. Indeed, the people Rowling champions are fucking monsters.
That one kind of sells it for me. Like that, yeah, you're probably transphobic if you support somebody's like rhetoric like that. That is transphobic. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay.
Here's GC figurehead Posey Parker telling cis men to patrol women's bathrooms on the hunt for trans women.
Talking about you dads who maybe carry, I think that's what you say. I'm so down with the American lingo. Maybe you carry, maybe you don't. Maybe you consider yourself a protector of women. Maybe you're that sort of man. Maybe you have a daughter or a mother or a wife.
Okay.
Maybe you have a sister. Maybe you just have some friends. Maybe you just think women are human and you don't need any absolute connection with them to feel compelled to protect us. I think you should start using women's toilets, men.
So much for keeping.
Why? I mean, frankly, and this is like my wife's take, and I'm still uncomfortable with it, but she has a point. Like, maybe we should just stop having gendered bathrooms. Like, I mean, I'm just, like, you know, apparently they do that in other countries. Like, does it really matter that much? It'd make me uncomfortable to piss next to a woman, but I guess they'd use the bathroom so that the only argument against women, you know, gender neutral bathrooms is that women are disgusting and they piss on shit and fucking bleed all over the toilet seat, worse than men. Okay, it's a truth. You're disgusting, all right? But, like, maybe we should gravitate towards there. It would really only help women because your lines are so long because you literally take, like, 5 minutes to take a piss, whereas, like, I just walk up and I just piss and half of it gets in my pants and I just don't care and I just walk away. It'll dry itself, you know? But maybe we should get there. Maybe it doesn't really matter that much. I understand, like, dressing rooms are different, but when you're taking a piss, you know, I got stalls there. I got individual stalls, you know? I know a lot of people are like, well, what if somebody, hurts somebody in the bathroom? I don't know. Like, what if somebody fucking rapes a little boy in the bathroom? Like, we don't care about that. We do care about that, but like we don't, you know. If anything, maybe we should just make children's bathrooms and adult bathrooms or something. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I guess the world's a complicated place. So,
keeping women's spaces for women. Of course, Rowling has tried to be smart. She doesn't record herself outright repeating the violent sentiment. No, she contents herself with laughing at us.
That's how I saw him.
I will never tell this to anyone, so hopefully not with a transgender person.
Transgender person, all right.
This has been such a pleasure.
Her slimy, cowardly behaviour goes back years. What's shown in this video so far is just from stuff I started collecting in the past year because I knew this subject was inevitable. While she's been careful enough not to use plainly direct hate speech, I don't think her deniability is close to plausible anymore. Look at the lies she tells.
Sorry, let me just
plainly direct hate speech. I don't think.
Many, myself included, believe we were watching a new kind of conversion therapy for young gay people who are being set on a lifelong path of medicalization that may result in loss of their fertility and our full sexual function. Yeah, this is like transphobic rhetoric. Which you could say, like, I think that, like, so my perspective, I'm like, listen, I'm not trans, so I don't have, like, you know, any emotional connection to this issue. To me, this reads as, like, somebody who is very unaware of trans people, and is very ignorant, that they think that we're, like, intentionally trying to convert gay people into being trans in some capacity. I think this stems from the fact that, we don't really see like tomboys as much anymore, especially tomboys, or we don't see as many feminine men anymore. Most of the times people transition now. Like you don't really see like a butch lesbian now as much. I guess you still do. My point is it seems like, you know, femboys and tomboys and all that are being replaced by trans people. And your argument could simply just be that there's the availability of being trans now, and so now they have the ability to transition where historically they would have, if they had the option. Back then they didn't have the option. So but again, there's no conversion therapy. Like that's the part that's like that's insane. The argument of I didn't want to put this here. The argument of a conversion therapy, that like we're intentionally trying to convert people, that's like so disproportionate and fucking crazy.
Think her deniability is close to plausible anymore. Look at the lies she tells, the fascists she supports. Look at how much she talks
Hitler?
about us. This is not what someone who doesn't loathe us
Hitler?
does. This is the activity of someone with a genuine, deep-seated problem. You don't have to believe me. You can believe the Harry Potter cast members who've condemned her. You can.
Oh, really? I personally would believe Harry Potter. What's his name again? I don't remember. Bungus? I don't fucking remember. I like that guy. The rest of them I don't care about. Emma Watson, woman? No thanks. What's Harry Potter's name? I don't remember. Vincent Van Gogh or something like that. But I like him, so I'll just believe anything he tells me. I don't care what he says.
Believe the historians who've catalogued a clear timeline of her descent into frothing bigotry. Or, if you'd
Cruella de
rather,
Vil.
believe the Republican politicians who are actually citing her words in their anti-LGBTQ+ legislative
Nice,
efforts.
Space.
Believe the
She's writing more
virulently
books.
right-wing male supremacy group Honey Badgers who call JKR their queen. Believe the photos of her at GC meetings. Believe the trans-exclusionary women's shelter she set up to replace the trans-inclusive women's shelter that her
J.K. Rowling funds sex abuse crisis center that excludes trans women. What is that about? Is it a women's only shelter? That's an interesting conversation to have. This is the one thing that I'm going to say, and I know it's insensitive, but like I think it's important to bring up. Like I feel like there's a struggle from a lot of people, a lot of women, traditional feminists, with trans people or trans women, excuse me, because most trans women aren't, and for lack of a better term, passable. And so, like, if you have a trans woman who is not very passable, but they're a valid trans woman and they're trying to transition, but most of the time they just don't have the financial, ability to do so because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they want to be seen as valid women because I think that they are. But like, it's still, to a woman, they see like a trans woman and go like, oh, that's threatening to me because this is somebody that looks very much like a man. And a lot of times women have uncomfortable interactions with men, especially in intimate places like locker rooms, or they have a fear of it. They may not necessarily have a personal experience with it. And so like this kind of situation clashes, where I'd say the best thing that we could do is really, again, provide trans affirming healthcare to people that, need it, that are, obviously professionally medically diagnosed and have like a robust system to help them get the care that they need, so that you'll see less of this problem. Because no woman has a problem with like a Blair White walking into the bathroom with him. You know what I mean? Because she's very passable, but a lot of people don't get the ability to be passable. Yeah.
movement.
Well, no, I'm not a valid woman, but trans women are valid women. My brother in Christ.
Bullied and harassed out of operation. Or maybe you just believe J.K. Rowling when she says it is dangerous to assert that any category of people deserves a blanket presumption of innocence. She meant trans people, of course. But if she's right, then hell, she gets no presumption either. She is a TERF, loud and proud, merry TERFmas, as she would say.
That's definitely she's transphobic. Do you think some of her feminist actions are sensational? Maybe. I don't know. Like, I'm not educated enough on this topic. This is like the first time I'm looking at it, so I couldn't tell you. I couldn't answer that question.
And has said,
Oh dear.
I've been out as a trans femme now for over 2 years. With my coming out, much about the world around me has changed, be it through my new perspective or the difference in treatment I receive. There's a lot of good. I'm complimented by sweet old ladies who like my boots. I'm hit on by lesbians in Leeds. People in general say nice things about me and I feel more comfortable saying them back. Mostly, I'm more confident. I like who I am and how I look, things that weren't true before. But while good things happened, and to be honest, 90% of people really don't care if I'm trans or not, there are negatives. It's no secret what it did to my career. The way in which I'm criticised online changed. Suddenly I was diagnosed by commenters as mentally ill, my age comes up a lot now, and my writing is tone policed, accused of being rude and screeching where it wasn't before. But most of all,
well, if you're a woman now, you're probably screeching a lot. Okay, let's be honest here. Women cannot stop fucking screaming and screeching and complaining about everything. Like yesterday, oh my god, I'm sitting here yesterday. I'm on the couch with my wife. We're watching The Last of Us, and oh, can you help me fold the laundry? No, I'm eating right now. Oh wow, you never help fold the laundry. Why don't you ever help do it? I'm not listening. Stop screeching at me, woman. You know what I mean? That's your job. I'm just kidding. I'm just terrible at folding laundry, and it makes me self-conscious because my wife yells at me. Sorry, what is it? It's not. Why can't women decide? Why can't women decide what? What are you talking about, brother? What are you saying? What do you mean? Why can't women decide what? The trans women are valid? Because I'm a man and I decide things, and the trans women are valid. Okay, patriarchy prevails again.
The world has become scarier. Scarier because of the right-wingers calling us all groomers and engaging in violence against us. Scarier because of the GOP and Tories.
Well, is it a trend to be trans, or more people just comfortably trans? Okay. Gosh, yes, it's too many fucking nuanced questions. Okay. Listen, first of all, there's probably a mixture between the two, and let's go into it. I would say that there's almost nobody... okay. There is more of an acceptability, and we're still not there yet, to be trans, which means that there are people who are more comfortable expressing themselves as trans in the way that they want to. There are also people, which I think are mostly young people, who are identifying as trans in a way that is a trend. I think a lot of people in high school and middle school do stuff like this. People will pretend to be something so that they seem more unique. I'm sure it does exist. And then there's probably people just experiment with their gender, whatever. I don't care about that. Okay. However, you need to distinguish the two of these people. And that's what, like, that's it. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Are there people transitioning? Sure. Is that trans people's fault? No. Right? There's people who, I remember I told you, like, we all do shit like this. I used to be, like, really into metal. And I was, like, really, like, gatekeepy when it came to metal. Kids do annoying, obnoxious shit, and they over-identify with dumb shit. And some kids are trans-trending. But that doesn't mean that we should take away... that shouldn't take away from like actual trans people. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Scapegoating us and legislating our rights away with increased ferocity. Scarier because of media outlets like the BBC engaging in transphobia as a matter of policy. Scarier because of the people JKR has emboldened with her support. The gender criticals who preach eugenics and partake in phrenology to call for our eradication. Scarier because culturally and legally and increasingly physically, we've been staring down the barrel of genocide for a long, long time. If you're not trans, if you're not so aware of how there's a new attack on us and our rights multiple times a day, every day, you won't quite know how bad it is. It's horrific. It's exhausting. We're less than 2% of the population, but we're called an epidemic. We're demonized in the press with extremely disproportionate coverage, and wealthy, powerful people like JKR can't stop thinking about us. Look, some people might be delighted to hear this from me, but I'm going to admit it plainly. I'm afraid.
Ooh, that's scary.
I'm really, really afraid. And every day, for months, I've seen a video game that directly benefits one of the largest sources of that fear promoted on the PlayStation Store and Xbox Live, hyped up by the gaming press and championed by a community with a long-running vein of transphobia running through it that goes back to the hateful protests against a bit-part trans NPC in Dragon Age Inquisition. Every day, a constant reminder that we as trans people have so few friends, so few allies. Every day, a reminder that the game industry and community are contemptuous. You know, as much as y'all gamers TM have tried, you've not owned...
I mean, if you think about it, gamers are so regressive that the fact that they're all playing a woman's video game, J.K. Rowling, I mean, yeah, she is transphobic, but you know, hey, you gotta take one step at a time for these video gamers, okay? Just one little step at a time, guys. All right, let's just be real.
Me by posting the glowing review scores for Hogwarts Legacy or boasting about its sales success. That just proves what I knew, that people don't give a fuck. That's not new information. It's not a surprise. It's half of the course. That's all. Those of you actively trying to harass me over it aren't the actual offensive ones. No, the offense comes purely from the self-described allies who want to have it both ways, who want to play their wizard game and get really upset when criticized over it. Or the media outlets who justify their uncritical reviews by having the fucking nerve to compare our protests against them to fucking Gamergate. Transphobes, you need to up your game, because none of you will ever be as insulting as a self-styled cis ally who wants trans people's permission to not take a stand.
Okay, so that makes sense to me. What this person is saying is like, hey, listen, we're tired of like trans allies pretending like blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I wonder if I fall in that category. I wouldn't consider myself a trans ally. I think that I'm reasonably educated on this stuff. I hope, you know. Yeah. I wonder, and there's a real question. Do you think that like Harry Potter existing is contributing to transphobia? Because I really just feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's not J.K. Rowling's anymore. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but...
Oh, and I love how the same Gamers TM who spent nearly 10 years calling game reviewers corrupt suddenly started trusting and touting them when a game they rallied around got 8s and 9s. Some of them even tried to twist Gamergate's ethics in game journalism pretext to defend outlets like IGN from criticism. IGN! Suddenly, the Ethics Brigade are standing for IGN, the Too Much Water website, the site whose credibility they've done nothing but meme. Way to prove that you've only ever wanted to be agreed with. You'll suddenly stop believing reviewers were paid off and attacked me when I posted what I'd heard from a Warner Brothers contact, that WB stacked the deck and only gave review code to outlets it trusted to give positive reviews. Like, that wasn't even a shocking revelation. It's a known fact this happens. An expected practice. I've covered the deck stacking elimination of wild card reviewers for years, but now I'm lying. Now game reviews are above board. Oh, by the way, I've never believed game reviewers are paid off. That's not what happened with Hogwarts. Reviews aren't high stakes enough that publishers are going to bribe over it. No, the sad thing is that there doesn't have to be bribery. Search engine optimization is all outlets need to keep covering games as enthusiastically as possible.
Well, at this point, people are talking about the game because there's so much like hatred against it. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to support Hogwarts because it's like Hogwarts, or I'm going to ban you or block you if you do this game, blah, blah, blah. And then people are like, oh, yeah, well, fuck you based. A lot of people are very inconsiderate. And so they're just like, yeah, fuck off. I don't care. Like, I'm going to buy it now, blah, 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 blah. And it's just kind of like almost like the opposite desire is now happening because of like some of the activism. You know, I think that, frankly, not to be rude, but this is probably just a fight that it's probably not beneficial to take the fight, which is kind of like mean, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's like very insensitive, but...
Hell, they wouldn't even refuse to cover Ubisoft games after all the sex abuse. They can't be trusted to do the right thing. While I don't think game critics outright lie, I think they have an incentive to not rock the boat, to do conspicuous things like, say, litter a Hogwarts Legacy review with so many negative statements, it sounds like shit, and then give it a 9 out of 10 regardless. From a general fear of controversy to wanting to avoid gamer boy harassment and, of course, maintaining a good enough relationship with publishers to keep having access, they've plenty of reason to go soft on big-name games. I left The Escapist in 2014 because parent company Defy Media refused to publish my review of Assassin's Creed Unity and jeopardise their relationship with Ubisoft. I'm famously blacklisted by Konami for being such a harsh critic. The PR company 47 told me EA wouldn't send me review copies because I'm a wild card. The only access I get in gaming comes from sources acting alone that need anonymity because they're not allowed to talk to me. My standing in the industry, that is to say, no standing, is the result of doing everything my former peers are incentivized not to do. I burned every bridge I had for not wanting to play with deeply corrupt organizations, and I'm proud of it. I also acknowledge that I can afford to not play in that sludgy water. Most reviewers can't. I scarcely blame them for the system they're stuck in. I've been there, I know how it is, and I don't think reviewers are unethical so much as forced to compromise with unethical companies while in the thrall to the all-important SEO. They're not paid off, but as we've seen with Hogwarts Legacy and with how quickly they wanted to move on from mentioning Ubisoft and Activision's abuse in their game coverage, not many of them have any damn principles. Multiple times in the past few years, press outlets had opportunities to make a stand.
Pizza cats.
They did not. So yeah, to the born-again Potter fans who spammed me with screenshots of IGN's big ol' 9, I'm not sure what y'all proved other than your own hypocritical opportunism. You'll be back to calling game reviewers SJW soon enough, won't you? I know I'm not changing any minds here. The bigots and Potter fans and people who just want to enjoy a video game made their decision. The allies who want to separate art from artists or hate JKR but just always wanted to Skyrim or Hogwarts made their decision. And regardless of intent, all of you look exactly the same to J.K. Rowling.
In my defense, J.K. Rowling is a cisgender white woman, so like she's just too hard to disagree with, bro. Okay? How can I disagree with that? Okay? It's impossible, guys. Us white men have been manipulated by blonde white women our entire for historically. It's not our fault, dude. All right? It's not a patriarchy, okay? It's all dominated by white blonde women. You know it's true. Stop blaming men, okay? Women are the problem. Okay, guys? That's it.
See, while people have tried to justify Hogwarts' legacy by saying JKR had no direct involvement, that doesn't change the fact she makes direct money from sales. More importantly, it doesn't change the truly insidious aspect of Harry Potter's continued success. JKR takes it as explicit endorsement of her views. She thinks the success of Harry Potter means people agree with her, and she's said so before. There is no difference in hers or any other TERF's mind between the people who bought Hogwarts because they wanted a fun wizard game and the people spite buying it to demonstrate the powerlessness trans people already feel. Intent doesn't matter. You're all just supporters to her. You are all permission. This is why you aren't an ally if you buy Hogwarts Legacy. No, buying the game doesn't make you a transphobe, and I'm tired of hearing the self-martyring whinging about that. I'm not saying you're transphobic for buying Hogwarts Legacy. I'm saying you're not an ally. You handed that card in because you couldn't do the barest minimum. You couldn't make the simplest stand. It's not that hard to not buy a
I mean, you got a good point. I mean, I'm going to be absolutely real. Actually, I don't need to buy this. I don't want to buy this. I'm going to be absolutely real with you guys. Is that like the day of, I tried to go to GameStop and buy the game. And it wasn't available. So I went home and I bought it on the, I bought it on the PlayStation Store. So I could get early access to start playing it. So, sorry. Guess I am kind of the problem there.
AAA video game.
Oopsie,
you chose a
poopsie.
product over people, and in doing so, you helped J.K. Rowling say things like this when asked how it feels
How do you sleep at night knowing you've lost the whole audience from buying your books?
to have alienated so many queer fans.
I read my most recent royalty checks and find the pain goes away pretty quickly.
That's what you do. You empower a fascist-supporting transphobe. Some of you celebrate that you've done it. Some of you wring your hands and excuse it. The result's the same. So enjoy. Not a single one of you are under any obligation to refuse this game. I'm not demanding it of you, and I'm not going to say you're an inherently bad person for it. But I do not trust you. I can't count on you. Can't think you have our backs. I can't feel safe with you. And sorry, but you don't get to feel hurt by that. You get to enjoy your media product. I get to remember every digital storefront that took a Hogwarts sponsorship, every games journalist that promoted it, every platform and company that embraced it, and I get to remember that when Pride Month rolls around and the performative allyship begins. Your rainbow logos won't count for shit. It hardly needs to be said, but any of you who claimed you bought it to support the developers can especially get in the bin. Oh, they worked hard and should be supported. That's probably the dumbest attempt to lionize consumerism I've ever seen. I've seen this excuse so much, and I'm like, how dare you? How dare you lie to me so fucking brazenly? You don't buy games just to support developers, you buy them because you want to play them. Tell me, do you buy literally every single game that's ever made and released? If you're motivated...
Maybe I do. I don't.
...purely by dev support, that's what you do, right? Every game is developed...
What do I think about the argument of separating creator from creation? Here's what I think. I think to trans people, like this person, it is a very personal thing because J.K. Rowling is like a real piece of shit to trans people, it seems like, from what I'm hearing here. And so to them, there's this intentionality to not care and hate or to not care about trans people, which is actually true. Like I mean, at the end of the day, you really can't make this art. You really can't make it another way. If you bought the game, you probably don't care about trans people as much. And they're making the argument that they don't think that makes you transphobic, by the way. But they don't want allies to be like, I'm an ally for trans people, and then buy the game and act like they're like morally superior and like go through hoops and bounds to justify it. You know, I never would call myself a trans ally. I talk about trans issues. I try to be intelligent when I do it. But like, yeah, you're prioritizing your enjoyment of the game over not supporting somebody who directly benefits from, you know, being the game. There's somebody who's transphobic, basically. I don't think it makes you a bad person. Yeah, that's what it is. I think you can separate art from the artist, kind of. But at the end of the day, it just shows like it shows a lack of empathy towards like the people that people get like, you know, blamed for. But I can't lie, I bought it too. Like I'm not sitting here like I'm you know, clearly it's not up on my priority list. It's unfortunate. You know, me personally, I don't really look at it as like J.K. Rowling made the game. I look at it as like, oh, it's a game that people made. Harry Potter in general, I think, has had a positive impact on the message on people. It's an entertaining piece of media. I don't think most people associate transphobia with Harry Potter. I haven't seen a whole lot of actual transphobia in the literature. I mean, I haven't read the books because I can't read, but like in the movies, I haven't seen anything that's particularly transphobic. You know, they had Hermione turned into a man when she drank the Polyjuice potion, turned into Harry Potter. So frankly, that sounds transaffirming to me. I don't know, like, you know, it's not that deep for me because I have no connection to it. So I can't tell you. But some trans people are upset, and I think that it's fine to be like, yeah, they can be upset, and then, you know, you don't have to care. I know that's so rude, but like, I'm saying what everybody's thinking, but you don't have to be mean about it. Like, don't buy the game out of spite. That's like real loser shit. You're spending $80 on a game because you hate trans people is like actually pathetic. But if you want to enjoy the piece of media, you know, do you boo? You know?
By game developers, so why aren't you buying every game? Every single one? Get the fuck out of here with that blatant bullshit. Of course it's bollocks from a results standpoint too.
That's a good question. Is it well, this person didn't say that they're not transphobic. Is a trans person who plays the game transphobic? I don't know. I'd have to ask a trans person that doesn't hate trans people how they feel like about that. Like, what's your relationship with the game? You know, like that's an interesting question that you asked me there. Let's see. I wonder if I have enough here.
The devs got paid already. They get paid for their work up front. Unlike JKR, they don't get royalty checks. They're not the ones supported by your purchase. She is. Warner Brothers is. Those are the beneficiaries. As we've discussed on this show before, game studios mostly live or die regardless of the success of one game, and thanks to the way public companies work, they're sometimes hurt by it, as layoffs often follow an influx of revenue to maintain the illusion of financial growth. Corporations don't operate based on customer support. If they did, we'd get more single-player games and fewer ones based around financially exploiting a minority of whale players. You're not supporting the devs that tossed in a token trans character called Sir Owen Orion explicitly to try and steer us.
Oh, was that the barkeeper? Because that barkeeper was terrible. It just, like, I'm fine with trans people. It just didn't make sense. It was weird. I don't know. Just like it just sounded bizarre. I don't know. Maybe
away from the subject of J.K. Rowling. Support wasn't even your intent. That's a retroactive justification for something you were always going to do. And honestly, fuck any of you who've come at me in the past few months with that excuse or any other excuse that attempts to paint your purchase of a video game in a noble light. You're not noble. You're not a fucking hero. Play the game if you must, but don't you dare tell me you did it for any reason other than self-service. Don't you ever look to me for validation, expect me to assuage your guilt, toss hypothetical scenarios at me that you think allow you to have it both ways. Just play your fucking wizard game. How you feel about that is not my problem. You clearly decided how we feel isn't yours. Cis feelings aren't our responsibility. It's so telling that the only real coverage of alleged harassment in games media this week has been about cis streamers getting upset at some mild pushback. It's a really old play. Whenever trans people advocate for themselves, we're painted as unreasonable bullies. Unsurprisingly, I've been asked to answer for the alleged harassment because minorities are always expected to take responsibility for each other. You know what? I'll answer it when I can go a day online without someone saying something truly vile about me, when I can stream without harassment myself, when I can post a selfie without being called a man or getting some other derogatory comment, when what trans people go...
I mean, that's fair. I mean, they're being fair here. Like, you know, that is kind of true. It's interesting. Because there have been a lot of people online that are like, oh my God, I can't believe this, that, and there are people who, this is the problem. There are people who are using this Harry Potter thing to be bullies and bully people. Like there are people who don't really care. This is the problem. There are performative activists in every community, and those are probably those are the people that are bullying people when they play Harry Potter, like going into streams and being like, oh, like you're a bad person, you're this, you're that. Those people are bullies, and they don't care about trans activism, and they're the ones that are the problem. Some of them might be trans, but they don't care about trans activism. They care about justifiable bullying. People do this stuff all the time. It's but you have ever had to speak out, be like, I don't like the game because I think it's like poopy, you know, whatever. I think that like this is transphobic and blah blah blah. I understand, but I think the problem is that you have people who will like, you have individuals who will shame trans people for being like, yeah, they think this game is like, you know, I think that this game is transphobic, or rather, I think J.K. Rowling is transphobic, and if you support the game, then like, you know, you're supporting that, but you're not transphobic. This person is saying, if you play the game, you're supporting a transphobic person, but you're not transphobic. But don't pretend to be an ally at the same time. And I think that that's fair. That's a fair statement. I think it's fair. You know what I mean? That's fair. You know?
Go through gets as much attention in the press, and when I feel people give as much of a shit about all of us as one cis person...
No, but you're wrong. Somebody said, well, you are calling somebody a transphobe and question their allyship over a game. No, but you're not listening to the video. The problem is that you've created a magical narrative, just like wands do, out of the video because you're uncomfortable with the subject matter. And this person explicitly and literally said you are not transphobic if you buy the game. And somehow you have decided that they said that you're transphobic if you buy the game. But they said explicitly that you're not transphobic. So, like, you have to realize that the way you're engaging with this video, your relationship with this video, is that, like, you're not listening. Just listen to what they say. They're saying that you can't be a proper ally if you buy the game because you clearly prioritize fun in a video game over, like, trans allyship. That's a fair thing to say. Yeah. Oh, you weren't saying that to me? Okay. No, that's what I mean. No, that's what I'm saying, though. You were saying it to the video, but you're wrong about your interpretation of what they're saying. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. You have to realize that they're not saying that you're transphobic if you buy the game. They're saying that you're not an ally and you can't pretend to be an ally. And specifically for allies to stop justifying the purchase of the game in 17 different ways. I think it's a fair point. I think it's fair to say, okay, you could simply not buy the game, but you prioritize the funness of the game. Okay, that's fair. I don't think you're fucking transphobic. I'm not transphobic. I might be. Just kidding. I bought the game. Like, now, if you buy the game to spite trans people, you're transphobic. And you're also a baby and a fucking child. Like, if you decided, like, if you decided to buy Harry Potter because you hate trans people, you're a loser and you're worthless. If you decide to buy it because you want to enjoy the game, and you want to, like, if you want to enjoy the game, and you don't care about the criticism, that's fair. There's a difference. So you are transphobic if you explicitly bought the game to say fuck you to trans people. So I'm not an ally. I've said like 4 times, like, no, I'd like to advocate. I'd like to think I'm educated on some issues, but I wouldn't consider myself an ally of, like, anything, really. I think it's cringe to consider yourself an ally of anything, frankly. I think that's more of the group itself. Like, I like to. I don't think it's weird to label yourself an ally at anything. It's fucking cringe. Like, that's really not for you to decide. So,
Until that happens, I'll prostrate myself before you on behalf of all transes everywhere. Until then, this'll do.
Checked out the big one that they're hailing as, like, the innocent streamer who got harassed off of the live stream. And what I have learned is that y'all genuinely think that accountability and basic criticism is the same thing as harassment and discrimination. Here we have somebody.
Well, what did they say?
Saying OMG transphobia, because obviously they think that it's a big joke. And then, well, that's kind of disappointing. Then we have yikes.
Well, I think that they're referring to the people who were crying on the stream. I have no idea all the messages that were being said. Frankly, I think if you're crying on the stream because people are making fun of you playing Harry Potter, like, grow up. Like, you're a loser. I don't know what to tell you. Ban those people. I don't know what you want me to tell you. You're gonna cry on stream because of it. I mean, come on. But I don't know exactly what they said. If they told them to take their own lives, that might be an issue. But if they're like, wow, this is transphobic, like, okay, whatever. But then again, the creator of the video doesn't think it's transphobic to play the game, so.
Then we have, yeah, I don't care how much you donate to Trevor Project. I'm done. Unfollowed so fast.
Bam, got
Sorry,
him.
can't support this. Goodbye. Very disappointing. You can really feel the discrimination, and there are tons of video games, guys. And here we have the comments they just let slide on through. Like, Rowling is a good person. Didn't have a problem with that one. And then she had to step away. And then she came back, and then they continued to stream for another 6 hours. And here's the thing, it wasn't even a comment that made her cry from what I could see. It was her and her boyfriend fighting this imaginary angry trans person, and her getting more and more overwhelmed at her defending herself against somebody who wasn't there.
Boycotts don't work. I said that about, I don't know, 10 years ago, and boy, people love blinging that one at me lately. I think there's still some truth to that, though looking back, it really is just what people are using it for. Permission to not take a stand. Kinda like how people have appropriated no ethical consumption under capitalism. Regardless, I know that in this case a boycott would never have worked. It's Harry Potter, and people don't care enough about trans people to pay JKR's crusade much attention. A boycott is not what I wanted nor expected. What most of us wanted was to simply point out why supporting a Hogwarts legacy is harmful, to at least get good people to think about the implications, to be heard on this, and to find out who our allies really were. We certainly found out about that last one. We don't have many, and we're sadly not shocked. For me, it's not about stopping you buying Hogwarts, but to get you to accept the accountability of it. I know many of you want to consume guilt-free, but I'm not the girl who's going to condone that. It's really quite simple. If you buy it, you're not a trans ally. Yes, it's that stark an either-or choice, and this is coming from someone who rejects the binary whenever possible. You might not be against us, but you're either with us, or you aren't. Have fun Skyrimming a Hogwarts.
Maybe. I mean, listen, listen, I understand the activist or the advocate thing. I think that you could still, I mean, maybe I'm coping. I don't think that the entirety of trans activism or advocacy boils down to a fucking video game, to be real with you. There are much worse things than J.K. Rowling. She's not great. Giving her more money, apparently it gives her the sense that she's doing the right thing. But ultimately, like, if you're, I don't think that everything boils down to this. I think that lacks nuance. It's probably a frustration from the creator because they're trans and getting bullied, so I understand it. Or maybe it's just a cope for me but like, I also don't really care if people think I'm a trans advocate. I'm not trying to be rude. I just like to talk about what I like to talk about. I think it's a little disproportionate, but hey, who am I, guys? But a blessed cisgendered white male. Okay.
And Merry Taffmas. Nagini, help! They've got a fucking Glock! Anyway, stochastic terrorism. Fee suggested I just briefly let you know what stochastic terrorism is. It's basically what we're seeing a lot of against not just trans people, but LGBTQ plus people on the wider spectrum. That knobhead Tucker Carlson does it all the time. It's causing indirect harm through rhetoric, through the normalization of bigotry and hateful ideas, through incitement. This is what Carlson, a lot of these right-wingers that I've mentioned on this episode, including Rowling, do. They incite hatred of a minority, of a marginalised group, in the hopes that some harm comes to them. It's no surprise that violence against trans...
Stochastic terrorism is the public demonization of people or group resulting in the incitement of a violent act which is statistically probable, but those... Okay, so... Gotcha.
People is on the rise, and that it's rising in conjunction with people like Carlson going on TV and engaging in groomer libel, telling everyone that we're out to get their children. Anyway, that's stochastic terrorism, a very insidious method of causing harm because, as we've seen Rowling do now for years, it allows you to plausibly deny your involvement. Well, had nothing to do with me. Of course, with JKR, there's a lot more we could talk about. We could talk about the many criticisms people have had of the anti-Semitic portrayal of goblins in her work. We could talk...
I'd like you to talk about it, because here's my thing. Goblins have existed... This is the problem with, like... Okay. Can't touch on too much. I've seen the stuff. This is the problem. Goblins are an anti-Semitic trope historically, but... I think that we're at a point now where people separate Jews from goblins. Like, I understand that historically that's where goblins came from. They were like small, big-nosed, like money-hungry, greedy pieces of shit. And the goblins are a caricature of like the Jewish stereotypes. Absolutely. I don't think that means that if you use a goblin that makes you anti-Semitic, because I don't think that everybody associates goblins with Jews anymore. Right? So like, I think it's more that it's created its own character. I think that most people aren't aware that Jewish people are supposed to be goblins, and the constant reminder of it, debatably more of a debatable problem. I don't know. I think it's just it's taken on a life of its own. It's become like a character now. I could be wrong, but like, yeah, every time I talk about this, people are like, wait, goblins are based off of Jewish people? Yeah, they are. I don't think anybody realizes that. Now they're just kind of an asshole characters, that's what it's supposed to be, but it's kind of gone. That meaning is pretty much as dissipated. Most people don't really realize it, understand it, or embrace it, or even associate these things at this point. It's kind of like it's pretty much gone at this point. So, I don't think that makes her anti-Semitic, because I don't think that the active association is there. I think it's like, I imagine that there are a lot of, like, let's say, like, you've never heard that before. You've heard of goblins if you never heard that it was associated with Jewish people, and you make like a fantasy lore with goblins in it. I don't think that you're anti-Semitic. I just like, it just exists. You know what I mean? You're like, oh shit. Hey, thank you so much, brother. So there you go.
About how she constantly equates her idea of physical attractiveness to goodness, certainly when it comes to using fatness as a visual indicator of evil. For this episode, I stuck with what I personally feel is my field of experience.
That's something that we've done historically, though. But it's hard to make that point when Hagrid is one of the most beloved characters in Harry Potter and he's fucking fat. It's kind of hard to make that art. I understand like the beauty impact. Like, it's something, if you notice that like bad guy characters in movies, they have disabilities. So like Ursula's fucking obese. I guess it's not a disability, but kind of. You get my point. Or they're like ugly. Captain Hook has a fucking hook, right? There you go. Not all of them have it, but there's a couple of instances. I don't know. Sometimes they'll do that. But again, Hagrid, fat, best character in Harry Potter. So I don't think that you can necessarily make that argument.
What I feel I can speak to most powerfully, but J.K. Rowling is a shit. That's the bottom line. She's a shit. So, that is the sad look at Hogwarts Legacy. I have been putting this one off. I've not wanted to do it, although, if I'm honest, I'm actually quite proud.
Who's fat and bad? I don't know. Good question. Who is fat and bad in Harry Potter? I don't know. Dudley? Is that a character? Voldemort is skinny legend, but then Voldemort is missing a nose. Right? Like, so it's kind of like that.
Proud of the script we put together. I'm quite proud of the video that's been put together. I am pleased that I got that off my ample chest, which not J.K. Rowling or Mayor Forstatter or Julie Pintle are going to take away from me. It's my tits. I earned them. You can't have them. Thank God for me. Up next, why Metroid Prime is...
All right, that's that. Interesting, something to listen to. It's interesting. It was an interesting video. I think it gave a nice perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but I think it's interesting to like kind of let that sink into you and understand at least part of the issue that some trans people are having with people buying Harry Potter.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.